Joining me now is News Corp columnist Angela Mollard and entertainment reporter for news.com.au, Bronte Coy. Angela, what do we know about the King's short stay in hospital?
Well, he went into hospital after suffering adverse effects in relation to his cancer treatment. The palace was very much on the front foot with this. They said that he was there they were watching, they were just keeping an eye on how he was, and he left not too long after, we believe. As you said, his engagements were cancelled that afternoon, and then the following day he was due to go to Birmingham, north of London, but those events were cancelled as well. What's interesting about this, Caroline, is that this, as you made the point, the King is not in remission like Kate is. He is still being treated for cancer. This is a weekly treatment, we understand. We don't know how serious it is, and we don't know what the treatment is. What's also interesting about it is that the palace are being completely transparent. And I think this relates back to 2021 when the late Queen Elizabeth went into hospital. Nobody was told. The Sun got word of it. They printed it, and there was a massive outcry in Britain that the palace was not being open about the Queen's health. Of course, King Charles is 76. He is suffering from a disease, a chronic disease. We don't know if he will ever potentially be in remission. He may be, potentially terminal patient. But I think the fact the palace was on the front foot this time was incredibly interesting.
And Bronte, Angela makes a great point there about the Queen and when people didn't know that she'd gone into hospital. This time around, what's the sentiment like in the UK?
Well, of course it sparked concern. The news came through at about 9 p.m. on Thursday night saying that he had... the language in the statement from the palace was very reassuring. And I will say that it was the words temporary and a brief stay in the hospital. But it is, as you both just said, it is that reminder that he's a 76-year-old man who is still suffering from cancer and experiencing treatment. We don't know what type of cancer it is. We don't know where he's at with his treatment. And it was that stark reminder because I suppose last year, once we found out his diagnosis, he actually wasn't away from the public eye for that long. He was right back into his duties. And so we saw a lot of him last year, and he maintained such a packed schedule and seemed to be doing it with a lot of energy. So it was kind of easy to forget that that's where he was at and that's what was going on weekly, out of the public eye. So this was a real reminder of that, and it kind of made everyone stop and take stock of the fact that he's going through that. There's a lot of hopefulness about it, of course, because he does seem so energised, and hopefully his engagements will pick up again this week. There'll be a lot of watching and seeing how it all unfolds because, of course, he does have that big state visit to Italy the next week, and that's already been amended partially because of the Pope's ill health and recovery himself. But we'll be watching to see where that all goes. But it really was just a strong reminder that, he's not at the end of his road and he's still undergoing that treatment, and hopefully he gets through it all.
And in addition to that, Angela, it's been reported that Harry didn't know about the King's hospital visit in advance. More broadly, there's been the suggestion around this week that he's becoming increasingly isolated on probably more than one front. Is that correct?
Well, that's right. It's been reported that he woke up like the rest of us and saw the news that his father had been in hospital. Look, you could argue that midday or thereabouts when the King is said to have gone into hospital would have been 4 o'clock in the morning for Harry in LA. Now, you don't want to ring him in the middle of the night and alarm him when it's, potentially the King's had, shortness of breath or dizziness or something. It sounds like it wasn't too serious, but it does illustrate that the circle of communication is not open and that Harry is not involved in that. Look, William, of course, as the heir to the throne, would have been told instantly. And you would have thought that the first thing Harry would have done would wake up to an email from the courtiers or the palace to let him know. You have to imagine that happened. It would be pretty cruel for a son to learn that his dad was in hospital and had been in hospital. But I think that's, to your point, Caroline, he's feeling increasingly isolated. There's a lot of conversation this week that he is now the spare again, where he was the spare to William in the first instance and he was the younger brother and he didn't get the attention. Now he is the spare to Meghan. She's got this high-profile new career. There's a lot of social media, a lot of chatter happening for her. The question is, what's Harry doing? He's sitting at home as a sidekick.
And Bronte, on to Meghan there. She thinks she's onto a winner with her latest venture. What's been reported this week?
Well, it's important to reach for the stars when you launch a new business, and I suppose that's exactly what she's doing. The report in the UK Telegraph says that sources close to Meghan say she believes she'll be a billionaire with this latest venture of hers. So, of course, we've got With Love Meghan premiered last month on Netflix. We've got her podcast coming out next week. We've got the commercial arm of her company, which is going to be As Ever, the website, which will be launched at some point soon. And also she's now merchandising things on Instagram. So, look, yes, there is absolutely scope in the lifestyle guru space to be a billionaire. This is a very lucrative industry. It does remain to be seen whether this business will be the one that gets her there. If it does, I suppose we'll have a blueprint for it, how she did it, because her podcast is promising to take small ideas and show us how to turn them into billion-dollar businesses. So I suppose we'll find out if that works. Certainly she's got her fingers in a lot of pies, so to speak, mind the cooking pun, at the moment with this big rebrand. And yeah, all eyes will be on it to see how successful it is.
And we spoke last week about Meghan's new podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder. This week, she released this trailer.
I'm Megan, and this is Confessions of a Female Founder, a show where I chat with female entrepreneurs and friends about the sleepless nights, the lessons learned, and the laser focus that got them to where they are today. Launching April 8th, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's do this, ladies. This is not Shark Tank. Think of this as Dolphin Tank.
Yes.
These are very friendly. These are very friendly waters.
Angela, what's been the initial reaction and what are your thoughts on where this is going?
Look, I'm interested in this one. I'm a little more interested in it than I was in her last series, Archetypes. But I'm also interested in how much she's getting paid for this one because, of course, it was a $20 million Spotify deal. There's no way that Lemonada, who is making this podcast, is paying her that amount of money. So what's in it for her? And I think we now know what's in it for her. She wants to know, as Bronte just laid out, was that she wants to build $1 billion business and she's going to tap the brains of everyone who has done this in the past to get her there quicker. I think it's very shrewd, really smart. I actually really like her voice on podcasts, but the last one I couldn't get past a couple of episodes because it was all me. It was all about Meghan. Now, if she can elicit great stories, great business stories that relate to other people, other particularly women who may want to start these businesses, then I'm all there for it. I love the way that she's front-footed about these things. You know, she's got this whole portfolio career going on there. But as is always the case with Meghan, she brings it back to herself. So I'm waiting. I will I'll listen to one or two. I don't hold a lot of hope that it'll sustain my interest past the first couple.
Well, we're going to have to see. And also last week on the show, ladies, you'll remember we touched on Gwyneth Paltrow and the comparisons with Meghan Markle. Here is this week's instalment.
I genuinely do not understand this at all whatsoever. Do you understand this?
Bronte, what's happening here?
Well, since Meghan launched this new lifestyle company and brand, there have been a lot of comparisons to Gwyneth Paltrow because, of course, she's done it extremely successfully with Goop. So there was also with that a lot of speculation that there was maybe some tension or a feud between the two because, every time Gwyneth put out a video, there was comparisons with things that Meghan had done. And so this kind of built into a narrative that there possibly were issues between the pair. Also because Gwyneth said in an interview, it was either last month or the month before with Vanity Fair, that she didn't know Meghan, despite them being neighbours, which felt a little bit deliberate to some people. So with all that in mind, last week as sort of the speculation reached a fever pitch after another one of Gwyneth Paltrow's videos, which was sort of similar to one of Meghan's, this video came out, the one that you've just played. So it's very obvious that they were keen to nip it in the bud. But given they weren't friends before that, as Gwyneth had said herself, clearly they've banded together now to sort of make it clear that there is no beef between them, to shut down the reports entirely and show that there's no bad blood. Look, it was a savvy PR move, and certainly it's gotten a lot of attention for both of their companies. So I suppose it's a good PR and branding exercise as well.
I thought it was great flex personally. And Angela, Bronte raised this a little earlier about Meghan has ramped up the merchandising side of things. Well, on a number of fronts, actually. What can you tell us?
Okay, let's talk about the Instagram influencer, selling her clothes on Instagram. I woke up, I saw this post, you can shop my look, and I just thought this is the most cheap and basic thing I have seen from a royal. in a long time. I loathe it. I just think this is not the brand. Look, even though they're apart from the royals, she is a duchess. If you think about it, the late Princess of Wales, her the mother-in-law she never got to meet, she took her clothes and she sold them to charity so that the money could be earned for good causes. And here's Meghan spruiking her clothing, which is, as I say, it's the most uninteresting collection of clothes you've ever seen. It's like the same as any.
Welcome back to Royal Sussex Squad, your go-to channel for the truth about Harry and Meghan. While the British media works overtime to twist narratives and downplay the success of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, we are here to set the record straight. Today we break down the latest royal circus, where King Charles's hospitalisation became yet another excuse to drag Prince Harry through the mud, and Meghan's thriving ventures are met with predictable bitterness. But don't worry, because, as always, the Sussexes are winning. Stay tuned and make sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let's get into it. So, King Charles was hospitalised briefly for what the palace assures us was a routine checkup related to his ongoing cancer treatment. Now, first off, we hope he gets well soon. But let's address the hypocrisy here. The media is praising the palace for being transparent, yet just a couple of years ago, Queen Elizabeth's hospitalisation was hidden from the public. Now that Charles is in charge, we're suddenly meant to believe this institution has turned over a new leaf. What's worse is the revelation that Prince Harry wasn't even informed ahead of time about his own father's hospital visit. The man had to wake up and read about it in the news, just like the rest of us. The media, of course, is spinning this as Harry being distant or out of the loop, when in reality it's yet another clear example of the royal family's petty and vindictive nature. William was informed instantly, as expected. But Harry the spare, not a chance. They've frozen him out completely, and yet the same press that shunned him for years is now acting like he's the problem. And then we have Meghan. The Duchess is out here making power moves, launching businesses and inspiring women worldwide, yet the British media is foaming at the mouth, trying to diminish her success. Meghan's podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, is set to debut soon, and what do? They start picking it apart before it even airs. You've got these so-called journalists whining about how Meghan brings everything back to herself. Well, newsflash, it's her podcast. Of course, she's going to be front and centre. And let's not forget, Archetypes was a massive success before Spotify dropped the ball. Then there's this tired attempt to pit Meghan against Gwyneth Paltrow. Suddenly the media wants to make it seem like there's a feud between them because Meghan's lifestyle brand is on the rise. First they called her a failed influencer, now they're comparing her to one of the most successful wellness moguls in the game. The desperation is showing. Meghan's brand is already generating excitement and they know it. And let's talk about this absurd outrage over Meghan promoting fashion on Instagram. Suddenly, selling clothes is beneath her? These same critics celebrate Kate Middleton every time she wears a high street brand, causing it to sell out in minutes. But Meghan monetizing her impeccable style? Cheap and basic, they say. The double standards are astounding. And the funniest part, they're mad because it's working. Meghan is a powerhouse, and every move she makes turns to gold. And now the British press has a new ridiculous talking point, Meghan's homemade jam. Yes, you heard that right. They are actually upset that Meghan is selling jam, the same institution that sold plates, tea towels and even garden gnomes with the Queen's face on them is now clutching their pearls because Meghan is bringing elegance and quality to the market. You can't make this up. At the end of the day, what we are witnessing is fear. Fear that Harry and Meghan continue to thrive without the royal family's outdated system. The Sussexes have done something that no royal before them has dared to do. Take full control of their lives, their image and their finances. And that terrifies the institution and its loyal lapdogs in the media. They expected Harry and Meghan to fail. And yet, here they are, building an empire while the monarchy scrambles to remain relevant. So let's call it what it is. Jealousy, bitterness, and the desperate attempt to control a narrative that's already out of their hands. Harry and Meghan are winning, and no amount of smear campaigns will change that. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the truth about the Sussexes. And if you want to support the channel, don't forget to send a super thanks. Until next time, stay loud, stay proud and keep exposing the hypocrisy of the royal machine. See you in the next one.